Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danger. So today in this guide video, we're looking at the Legacy of Nightmare Bombardment build for the Crusader. So as you can see right here, I'm currently playing on Greater Rift 76. It's pretty fun, but I'm just gonna pre-warn you that this build is really not for everyone because it is a little bit more advanced to master than the normal Thorns of the Invokers. But once you do, it's really fun, and also the items that is required for this build is a little bit more difficult to get because it requires a lot of ancient item. Pretty much the whole entire gear set is ancient. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so it's pretty much a little bit harder. But other than that, just think of yourself as a glass cannon mage. Well, Crusader, that's a glass cannon where you're using bombardment as your main damaging skill, and you pretty much don't have that much toughness. Anything and everything can pretty much kill you. So with this build, you want to time your iron skin with the conventions of elements before you hit bombardment. So that's where you get that huge massive amount of damage. And if you can gather all the mobs together, and that would be awesome. Anyway, so have a look more into the video, and then we're gonna go into the stats priority, the gears that you need, cube and paragon level skills and gems. Okay, and I'll see you guys very soon.
May be strong, but I will not stand down. Patience. I enjoyed that. Not ready yet. I need healing. My wounds heal. I must heal. Not yet. Not ready yet. Not yet. Heal me. Not ready yet. I grow weak. Not yet. Patience.
Alright, so welcome back guys. So the first thing we're going to do is stats priority. The most important one is going to be cooldown reduction. The reason why we want cooldown reduction is we want to synchronize our iron skin and bombardment with conventions of element itself. So the minimum I would say is 60%, which I find is best. It will always synchronize with the physical increase in damage conventions of element 1. Okay, then you're gonna have the physical plus damage, which increases our thorns, and then you're gonna have plus bombardment and chance to area damage, and then the rest are going to be strength, vitality, socket, and then lastly is going to be all resist and armor. Okay, Alright, so now for our equipment. As you can see, I've already laid out what in my opinion is required for this build, and then optional stuff as well. Okay, so the top here is pretty much going to be required, period, and the bottom ones are pretty much optional. So the first two items is going to be the Legacy of Nightmare set, the Wailing Host, and the Litany of Undaunted. So now I have two ancient items. Okay, so let's equip them and see the set bonus. Okay, so while this is your only set bonus equipped, every ancient item you have equipped increases your damage dealt by 100% and it reduces your damage taken by 4%. So right now I have two rings equipped on me. Both of them are ancient, which means that my damage dealt is increased by 200% at the current time being. So every single slot that I would equip on that is ancient will increase it by 100%. So in total, you have 13 slots, right, to use. That means 1300% increase in damage dealt. So that is why this build is a little bit more difficult to get to do itself, because the more ancient item you have on you, the more damage you do, the less damage you do, of course, right? And ancient items, sometimes they're really hard to get, or if you get them and they're stupid, their stats is stupid. Okay, so that's why it's a little bit more difficult to get. Anyway, so let's move on. Okay, so the next one is going to be the Heart of the Iron, or the Aquila Caress, and let me explain. If, let's say, one is better than the other in a sense that it's ancient, then you would put that ancient item on you, equipped on you. If it's not ancient, then you put it in the Kenai Cube. So in this case, I have never had an ancient Aquila Caress, so I've put it in the Kenai Cube. And my Heart of Iron is ancient, so I put it on, equipped on me. If it was reversed, then user discretion. That's about it. Okay, so that goes for the chest, Lyric Crowns, just to help us reduce in cooldown reduction. That's a no-brainer right there. Next is going to be the Belt of Trope, which helps us to randomly call down bombardment every 6 seconds to nearby enemies, and this is really great for extra damage as well. And it goes into consideration with the Iron Skin and Conventions of Elements. Not only that, but it does not uses the cooldown of your bombardment skill, so you can have two separate ones. Okay, so this is required, period. Next is going to be the Nemesis Bracers. There's not really that many good bracers at all, so every single time you click on a shrine or a pylon, you summon elite mobs, and that would help you progress much faster. And next is going to be the Hexing Pants of Mr. Yan. So you're always going to be moving. You're never really going to be stopping at all, as you already saw the gameplay. So your damage is increased by 25%, which is really good. And again, there's not that many pair of pants that you can use, except for maybe the pox fought, but even that, it's not that great. Next is going to be the Illusory Boots right here, which is actually a lot tough to get, because you need to do, I believe, Act 2 and Act 4 to get these boots, and if they're not ancient, it kind of sucks, right? But these ones are really useful, especially after you use your Steed Charge and you're stuck in a huge clump of mob, and you can't get out, right? So these boots will help you get out of that situation. If you can't find these boots, then the Firewalker boots would do. They pretty much do Firewalker. There's not many good boots at all. Lastly is going to be the Hellfire Amulet. This is because we want an extra passive. It's actually really good to have that extra passive. So that's why we want to have the Hellfire Amulet. Now, if you can't get the Hellfire Amulet, you can always get the Flavor of Time, which will always have cooldown reduction on it, or one of the other amulets that will help heal yourself. Okay, so those, in my opinions, are the most required item for this set itself. So now for our weapon, we will primarily always want to use the Doombringer because it has increase in physical damage. So that's why we want it. Now, if it already has, let's say, physical damage, strength, vitality, and cooldown reduction, you'd actually want to reroll your weapon damage right there where it says 1501 1854 holy damage into something else that's useful for you. Okay, because weapon damage does not matter yet again in this build, so that's why we want to reroll that. Now the other ones that you can get is either the Nailbiter, because it does have thorn damage, just in case you can't get Doombringer, okay, or even I believe maybe the Hack. I'm not sure about the Hack, or even the Nether. I can't pronounce the other one that also has thorns, but primarily want to use this because of the physical plus damage. Okay, And then for the shield, we want the lidless wall because it's pretty much the only shield that can reroll. Sorry, that can roll elemental damage. And luckily, mine I have a physical plus damage, but the critical hit chance down there kind of sucks because, well, I'd rather reroll into Thorns plus damage versus something else. Anyways, I could have actually reroll into cooldown reduction, but I had enough, so that's why I reroll Thorns. So that's it's better for me in the end, anyways. And for block chance, we want it to be the highest as much as possible. If you can't get this one, you can always use the hollowed bulwark right here, just so that you have more survivability survivability when you use Iron Skin. Okay. But other than that, the lidless eye is pretty much what you want to get. Next is optional as well. It's saying Archer's Gauge. So every single time an elite pack hits you, you gain a shield equal to 150% of your maximum life for 10 seconds. And there's not that many good gloves to use anyways. Lastly is going to be your shoulders. Now I have Mountain of Light from one of the ancient item. From set items. These are pretty much the best ones that I have. You can use any other shoulders you want to. There's not that many good shoulders. I think the next best one is going to be the Death Watch Mantle right here. 35% chance to explode in a fan of knives for 750 to 950% weapon damage when hit. But that's weapon damage, so that kind of sucks, you know what I mean? There's not that many good shoulders. You can use the spotters of Zakara if you want to as well. Pauldrons of the Skeletal King is really good too, but these were the best ones that I have, period. Okay, so shoulders, it's up to you. Use whatever you want to do, and that's pretty much all the equipment that is required for this item, and it's really hard to get, especially when it's not ancient item. Okay, and it's just, that's it. Just best of luck to you guys to get all these, and sometimes it's really hard. Okay, so let's move on to the Kenai Cube, which is pretty much simple and easy. You may not be able to see the icon, but you can see the tooltips. So one, the ring is going to be conventions of elements, so that we can increase our physical damage. If you cannot survive, then use the unity ring with your follower, but I do not recommend that because then you're going to fall behind on damage, and that means fall behind on the time. So try your best with conventions of element. If you can't, just use unity then. Sorry. Next is going to be Aquila Caress or Hearts of the Iron. Which one is better? Whichever one that drops an ancient first, right, and has good stats on them. And then last one is going to be the Mortal Drama right here. Double the amount of bombardment impacts, which is what we really want for this build. Okay, so that is the Kenai Cube and our equipment. Let's move on to our gems that we're gonna use. So first is gonna be legendary gems. The Biarski's chip, of course, this is a no-brainer. Increases our thorn damage. That's what we want right there. Next is going to be the Bane of the Trapped. Increase damage against enemies under the effects of controlling by X amount. So always gonna be this. Lastly is going to be the Bane of the Powerful. So you always have that 15% towards elite mobs, and then gain an extra 20% after killing them. So overall, pretty much 35% to elite mobs, 20% to normal mobs. Why not the Bane of the Stricken? The reason is because you don't hit that much to be able to reset that internal cooldown, the internal refresh rate. So it sucks a lot. So I wouldn't use the Bane of Stricken, but if you want to choose to, you can if you want to. And Gokok of Swiftness is not going to be something either, because you don't hit enough to be able to actually refresh that buff for you. Okay, so that's why. And then we're going to be using red gems for our normal sockets. Now, if you can't survive, use diamond gems or a mixture of it. Strength does give you thorns damage. It just won't give you it just won't be shown here, and that's it. It'll give you that thorns damage, don't worry. But also it will increase our toughness too. Okay, we're gonna be using the diamond gem for our helm, cooldown reduction, and lastly is going to be the orange gem for our weapon to increase our thorns damage. Okay. Alright, so for our Paragon level, which is actually pretty much easy, first we're going to be maximizing our movement speed to 25%, that's what we want there, and then everything else into strength. Next is going to be our offensive, which is only cooldown reduction is what we want, everything else doesn't really matter. Defensiveness, all resist, armor, life regen, and then life. Lastly is going to be our area damage first, and then life on hit, and then the rest does not matter. So that's for Paragon levels. Alright, so for our skills, we're going to be using Shield Glare with Divine Verdict here. This is pretty much our crowd control. Not only that, but enemies that are blinded by this will take up an extra 20% of damage for 4 seconds. So time it with the Iron Skin and Convention Element and your Akarat's Champion, and then also Bombardment. So everything will take a whole shit ton of damage, don't worry. And then next is the Akarat's Champion, which increases our damage by 35%. And then because of the Prophet Rune, we gain an extra 150% in armor. And then also, this is pretty much our cheat death skill right here. Okay, so it's a no-brainer. Next is going to be Laws of Justice, immovable objects to help us survive a lot more. And then we're going to have the Iron Skin with reflective damage, of course, to increase our thorns and help us survive a lot more. And then our 2 damaging skill right here is going to be the Steed Charge with Spiked Barding. So this will deal 500% of our thorns every second to enemies through which you ride, okay? Which you ride through, sorry. So we're going to use this when Bombardment is down. So lastly is Bombardment Barrel of Spikes. So damage of each barrel is increased by 200% of your thorns. So that's why we want to maximize our thorns as much as possible, so that we synchronize our Iron Skin with Conventions of Elements, and then Shield Glare, and then Bombardment, so that everything would take a huge shit ton of damage, okay? So that's why you want this. Alright, so for our passive skills, now you'd actually want one of the passive skills on your Hellfire Amulet. One of them could be Indestructible, Fever, Iron Maiden, or Lord Commander. Okay, so right now, because I already have a Hellfire Amulet that has Lord Commander on there, it's not going to be on here, but mostly you want to replace this with Lord Commander if you can. Okay, you don't want to replace Indestructible or Fever or any of these at all, because all of these are required, but because I already have one on my Hellfire Amulet, we're going to be choosing another one. So this is required, Fever right here, to increase our cooldown reduction. That is why it's required. And then we have Indestructible, Cheat Death right there. Iron Maiden to increase our thorns by 50%, and then the Lord of Commander, which is very important. The cooldown your Steed Charge is reduced by 25%, and Bombardment by 35%. So with your cooldown reduction of 60% and this and the Fever, you should be able to synchronize the Bombardment with Conventions of Element. Okay, now if you already have one of the skills, passive skills on your Hellfire Amulet, so you can choose the Long Arm of the Law right here to increase your law by an extra 5 seconds to help you survive a lot more, or you can actually use Finery just so that you can gain a little bit more armor and a little bit more thorns. Okay, so that is up to you. That's up to your discretion of whichever one you choose. Okay, so that is your skills. Alright, so lastly is going to be your follower. We're going to be using the Templar right here. The reason is because the Templar is going to heal us, okay? So right here we have heal, and then we have life regen right there, and then we have charge nearby enemies, stunning them, okay? So he's going to stun them for us. And lastly is our Guardian, which is another cheat death for us, okay? When our life is low, the Templar will come to our aid, knocking enemies nearby and healing us at the same time. So that's a third cheat death for us, okay? So for his weapon, we actually want the Thunder Fury. It doesn't matter whether it's dexterity or int on it, it's just the legendary power that we want. Okay, here it is. Chance on hit to blast your enemy with lightning, dealing X amount of weapon damage as lightning, doesn't matter, and then jumping to additional nearby enemies. That's good. Each enemy hit has their attack speed and movement speed reduced by 30% for 3 seconds. Jumps up to 5 targets. So that will help us survive, okay? And for the rings, doesn't matter, Bokatho's wedding band if you want to drain things around. And necklace, S of Johan would actually be really good too. It just pretty much sucks everything to where he is. So that's good. So that's pretty much for the Templar. Alright, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, a thumbs up would definitely be appreciated. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll happily answer as best as I can, as much as I can, okay? And don't forget to press subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!